Gen Con is right around the corner and literally hundreds of new games will be coming out there. Let's start listing my top picks. Hey there! We are mere days away from North America's largest annual board game convention, Gen Con, where at least 600, yes, 600 new board, card, and tabletop games are going to become available for gamers to add to their gaming tables, their shelves, and their game nights. This list of games is enough to make a gamer's head swim. So I recently combed through a list of all of these upcoming games and, head in full swim, picked the top 10% of them that interested me the most to discuss here. But to keep me from going just completely mental, I'm going to split my list into several episodes and just keep producing these episodes until either I run out of time or just die. Now, each of these games listed is going to be available for purchase at Gen Con. Now, for my picks of games that will only be demoed at the convention, well, see this video right over here. Thing link there. I'm going to try avoiding games that I've previously discussed in other top 10, top 5, and other recent videos. But even so, that leaves a substantial list to go through. The first installment of which starts right now. We're going to kick off this entire thing with the probably mispronounced game, A Mule, a set collection card drafting game. A Mule, which was originally announced as the easier to pronounce Silk Road, is a card game of bustling bazaars for up to 8 aspiring merchants. In A Mule, each player is a striving merchant competing for wealth and success. And to achieve this, players must manage their hands of cards effectively, as only certain cards can be played to the table for scoring, while others must be left in your hand for optimal performance. A Mule features fast and engaging gameplay as well as beautiful artwork. But really, that's a given, isn't it? I mean, are there any games out there that advertise dreadful artwork and disinteresting gameplay? Probably not. But that does remind me that I do need to put together another Thrift Sift episode soon. Number 2 is Anomaly, a deduction game with a horrific science fiction setting. Anomaly is a hidden movement, deduction, and combat game for 2 to 4 players. Now, players in this game are divided into 2 teams. One player is the Anomaly, while the other players are a group of students. The goal of each team is to eliminate the other. Now, all the students and the Anomaly will execute their movement behind a player's screen, so it's going to be really difficult to know exactly where another player is in the game. The students will try to signal their location to the other students by using location hint cards, and the Anomaly will, in turn, use these cards to triangulate the students' positions. To stay alive, the Anomaly needs to feed itself, either on fuel or the students themselves. The game ends when either the Anomaly's health pool is depleted, or the Anomaly runs out of students to snack on. Welcome, cadets, to number 3, Are You a Robot? Our space colony has been infiltrated by murderous, savage robots, and the only way to escape them is to shoot them in the face with your standard issue laser pistol. However, you don't want to accidentally shoot a human by mistake because, God, the paperwork. Our only hope is to pick off these robots one by one. So get out there, play this game of bluffing and social deduction, pick your targets wisely. Are You a Robot is not just an existential question I've been struggling with for several months, it's also a social deduction microgame in which each player gets a random card which they must look at but keep secret. Gameplay then consists of talking. You ask each other questions and try to figure out who just became a robot. The players, though, can say anything. Lying is a certified part of the game. The game ends when a human decides to either shoot a robot in the face or shake hands with it. The humans will prosper if they correctly shoot the robot, but the robots win if the humans, well, don't. This appears to be a tiny little game from Looney Labs, which is only going to be a couple of bucks to buy, so this is one of the very first things I'm going to go out and scoop up as soon as I can find it at Gen Con. Number 4 is the Artemis Project, a space exploration game that utilizes dice rolling, auctions, worker placement, and a dash of take that. Behold Europa, Jupiter's moon. Deep beneath its crust, the oceans are teeming with alien sea life. shellfish, plants, corals, arthropods, even strange fish that wear stupid t-shirts, and larger sea creatures. They all populate a wide-ranging, interconnected web of hidden seas. Oh, but that's nothing, because volcanism is rampant as well, warming the mineral-rich waters and creating excellent conditions for energy harvesting. The Artemis Project is a dice displacement and engine building game that has the players fighting the planet as well as the other players. Players will roll their dice and place them tactically to thwart the other colonists and harvest the energy and minerals and shirt-wearing fish that are out there. They'll also bid for buildings, work together to go on expeditions to earn rewards, and train workers. And I mean, they'll actually teach workers. There's not workers that are little trains. Now, I'll be honest, this game appears to want to do almost everything under the sun that a game can do. So, I'm interested in finding out if this one, well, can do it, or if it's, well, gonna be a bit of a mess. So that's the Artemis Project, one of the ones I really want to check out, not necessarily just to go and scoop up and grab, but to investigate further. Number 5 is Bad Bones, a tower defense game that incorporates simultaneous action selection. Bad news, Ace. Your kingdom is at siege by the living dead, you know? You do what you can. You raise troops, you build walls, you lay traps, you prepare magical spells, you even wake your pet dragon, you know? You hope that things help, but it's still a struggle. Well, hopefully, these oncoming hordes of the undead can be slowed, or if you're especially crafty, perhaps they can be pointed towards those neighboring kingdoms. In this battle that you are in, your best asset is your brave and proud hero who stands ready to slay those piles of walking bones. But alas, he can't fight everywhere, so if things get really desperate, you could offer them some treasure to get some relief. Either that or, I don't know, give up. That's not a very good strategy, though. And probably one that you don't want to employ in Bad Bones, a game in which you must survive an invasion of ever more numerous and dangerous skeletons. Now, this invasion cannot actually be stopped, so you're going to have to outlast your opponents to win the day. At your disposal is a range of different weapons that defeat, slow, or even deflect the skeletons towards, those other players. The game ends when one player's tower or village is completely wiped out, and then the remaining players determine who wins. Bad Bones is in my current Holy Grail category, a tower defense board game. I've tried a few. Some have succeeded more than others, but none of them have had that X factor that's made me go, wow, this is really what I'm looking for in a tower defense board game. So, will Bad Bones be it? Be the one? Will it be bad to the bone? Or will it be bad to the bone? Well, the only way to find out is going to be to investigate it at Gen Con, which is exactly what I intend to do. Number 6 is Bahamas, a bluffing card game that takes advantage of dice and the poor life decisions of other player characters. You see, the holdup was perfect. It was a sound plan. There were millions in the bag, fleeing by plane. Yep, everything was going perfect. Everyone started to relax, but then the airplane engines started to sputter. And then the plane started to fall out of the sky. And then the real game began. In Bahamas, players take on the role of 10 characters in the Bahamas who steal, lie, threaten, and do everything they can to get the biggest part of a stolen stash of loot and land safely, because their airplane that they are escaping in is going down in flames. Fortunately, there are parachutes available. Unfortunately, you forgot to bring enough of them. So, with time running out, players will draw and use cards from an action deck, and when a certain crash card is drawn, everyone who is still without a parachute or a lifeboat hiding in the action deck, how do I want to put this, plunges to their demise. And after all that happens, well, whichever surviving character has the most money wins. The game does provide another way to escape by landing the plane safely and then ratting out your fellow thieves to the FBI. But seriously, why do that when you can be the last man standing? Number 7 is an expansion for Bang the Dice game called Undead or Alive. This expansion adds 8 new enraged gunslingers and 2 new duel dice that you use for, oddly enough, fighting duels. Now, if you get into a duel and you lose, then you must draw a dual wound token that you keep to annoy yourself with. And during your turn, each dual wound token that you have cancels one identical symbol rolled on the dice that you decide to keep. So they're really a pain, both figuratively and literally. The new dice also feature another new symbol, the whiskey bottle. And if you roll a whiskey bottle during your turn and you have no dual wound tokens to discard, or if you lose 2 or more life points in one turn, then you must draw a rage card, the symbols of which are added to the results on the dice. I've been waiting a long time for more content for Bang the Dice game, and finally, it is here. So this is one that I am definitely going and scooping up as soon as I can find the booth in the exhibit hall, wherever it may be that has it, hopefully still in stock, because I'm scooping. Number 8 is Blind Spot, a game of words just right there in front of your face. Oh sure, it may seem like just a jumbled grid of letters, but as you cover letters on the boards, words will begin to come into focus. And before you know it, the board will tighten up and suddenly those words that were once so plentiful become harder and harder to spot. Fortunately, you're also running out of time, because this is Blind Spot, in which players place little spots to cover letters and race the clock to reveal more and more words that they kind of dig up out of the board. The game becomes a lot more difficult as more and more spots are placed on the board, and players have to quickly and cleverly use their spots not only to find words, but also to block their opponents to be the last player standing. I saw Blind Spot demoed last March at the Gamma Trade Show, and it's an innovative little word game with a lot of replayability, including rules for team play and solo play. So I'm going to check out Blind Spot because it's not what you see in this word game, it's what you don't see that will help you win. I sure hope I play it better than I read its marketing copy, because, woo, boy. We're halfway through this installment of the list, which is a great time for someone else to talk for a while. Welcome back, and subscribe. Number 9 is Catlantis. Oh, here we go. Catlantis is a pun-filled mythical twist on what is apparently a hot trend of mer animals and cats, which are always popular, sure. This game features intuitive gameplay that's quick to play and easy to learn. Thank you, marketing blurb. Okay, full disclosure. While I am genuinely excited to find out more about this game, I can't help but get the feeling that this game is fully aware of exactly why it exists. The game is designed around meme-worthy art, foil cards, and adorable little meeples. And in the game, players will gather wealth and treasure and persuade, their words not mine, their allies to join their kitty coup. Each turn, they'll make offerings to another player and hope that they don't pounce on the resource that you actually need. So trying to figure out what your opponents want is half of the battle while trying to get what you desire. Whose reputation will sink into the sea and whose will float to the top is the question that the marketing copy for this game wants to ask. But really, the question on my mind is, what in the world is Catlantis actually about? I don't actually know, but I am mesmerized and dying to find out. Number 10 is Claim, a trick-taking game in a fantasy setting. Oh, the king's dead. And while nobody really knows what happened, we do know that he was found face down in a wine barrel just this morning, and it could have been either foul play or, well, his own thirst that did him in. Stupid king. Regardless, the king is dead, and without any known heirs, it's up to the 5 factions of the realm to decide who will be the new king. Will it be you? No, it's going to be me or your opponent, or perhaps you. So we need to know, right here and right now, if you have what it takes to win the other realm's factions. Claim is played in 2 distinct phases, which is one of the things that really intrigues me about it. In phase 1, each player gets a hand of cards which they're going to use to recruit different followers. And in phase 2, they're going to use those followers to compete and win over the 5 different factions of the realms. And each faction has a special power that affects how the game plays, and those powers can be different each and every phase. At the end of the game, the player who wins the majority of the faction's votes wins the crown and the entire game. Claim reminds me a little bit of the card game For Sale in how it's split into two distinct parts. But I'm hoping that it adds a little more sophistication and complexity than the For Sale model. Especially since Claim is one of the few games on this list that I've actually pre-ordered to go pick up at Gen Con sight unseen. So that was a wise move on my part. At least it might be, in case Claim turns out to be fantastic. Otherwise, want to buy a copy of Claim? Number 11 is Colors of Paris, a game that takes place in a bunch of Paris locations that I have absolutely no chance of pronouncing correctly. In this game, you have decided to participate in the Batture l'Œuvre, a friendly competition between several painters in the workshop in Montmartre, Paris. The newspapers know all about this challenge, so perhaps they'll teach you how to pronounce it. But otherwise, you know that this is a good opportunity to become famous, following in the footsteps of Cézanne, Toulouse-Lautrec, which I only know how to pronounce because it's in the lyrics of The Move by the Beastie Boys, Monet, and Renoir. Colors of Paris is a management game in which you must take care of your paint tubes, mixtures, and your time to create fantastic works of art, all the while anticipating others to perform as needed within a rotating set of actions. I'm going to find Colors of Paris at Gen Con, I'm going to play Colors of Paris at Gen Con, but I'm also going to take along a linguistic professional to pronounce it correctly. Number 12 is Conflicting Legends. Imagine a cross between Risk and Rock, Paper, Scissors, okay? Now, take the opposite of how terrible that sounds, because this game is fantastic. In fact, it's right here. I picked this up at BGG Spring, and I love this game. Conflicting Legends is a fast-paced, highly interactive, and unique strategy game based on rock, paper, scissors. Yeah, you basically use different personalities from throughout history to play rock, paper, scissors to take over different people's countries. It's great. If you can track down a copy of Conflicting Legends at Gen Con to try out, I encourage you to do so. This is a quirky, fast-paced, fun little game that always results in a lot of laughs when we play it, and a lot of those ho 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 type of moments. So that is Conflicting Legends. So far, one of the most pleasant surprises that I have encountered so far this year in the world of board games, and one that I hope that I can really be a bit of an evangelist for, because I really enjoy it. Number 13 is Copenhagen, a pattern-building puzzle game with the famous city as its backdrop. The Danish city, Copenhagen, is traversed by canals and harbors, and part of it is famous for the colorful garbled houses along the water. In the game, Copenhagen, players must design new facades for these houses so that they fit seamlessly into this beautiful harbor setting. By using the cards on the various displays that come out throughout the course of the game, players receive the corresponding facade, polyomino tiles, which they will use to beautify the houses that they are constructing. I was introduced to the game Copenhagen at Origins during kind of an open house event at the Queen Games booth. And at that event, they had the game out at a bunch of different tables, but it wasn't super readily available yet. That is a euphemistic way of saying that I wasn't able to get a copy of myself yet at Origins. But at Gen Con, it's going to be back, bigger, and better than ever, baby, which is not true. It's going to actually be the exact same size and level of quality as it was back at Origins. The difference, though, being it will be slightly more readily available, which, yeah, subjectively increased availability. Number 14 is Court of the Dead, Mourner's Call, a fantasy adventure game chock full of mysterious mythology and magnificent miniatures. In this game, you are a mourner, an allegiant of death itself, dedicated to realizing his noble ambition to end the celestial war and restore balance to the universe. Which sounds easy, except death's purpose includes your own ulterior motives as well, because you're a bit of a sneaky Pete yourself. You and your fellow mourners must unite and rise, or you'll all fall together, because only one mourner will achieve their particular vision of the underworld united. But beware, because there's even more stuff to watch out for here. The power within the mortal souls is a perilous substance, right? Right? This stuff, it's gooey and it's scary, and you gotta handle it with care. I mean, seriously, use gloves. Because if used carelessly, it will risk invoking the Dread Grisp. Dread's Grip, however you pronounce it, it's a destructive force within every mourner that consumes all it touches, including its former master. God, it's always something, isn't it? Well, failing to satiate the Celestial's war need, or triggering this Dread's Grip, or doing other terrible things, all have dire consequences for all of the mourners playing the game. So that's why you have to ask yourself, right now, are you strong enough to achieve your own ambitions and be the champion for uniting all of the forces in which the mourners call? Or are you more dedicated to figuring out what I actually just said, because it didn't come out right at all? Number 15 is the Crusoe Crew, which is more than just a game. This is a set of graphic novel adventures. In the Crusoe Crew, you embody a character in an immersive story in which your choices guide your progress. You have a character sheet as well that's akin to those used in role-playing games, which is going to track your possessions, your special abilities, your coins, and your victory points. Now, each of these is a graphic novel, and gameplay, generally, consists in following the comic's panels, which contain clues and riddles and traps, all while making choices about where to go and what to do, while using your visual perception to collect clues that are hidden in the artwork, and be smart enough to resolve various riddles that you will encounter. Now, as in any game, you can lose, and sometimes pretty badly. But what's the difference is that with this story, compared to other graphic novel adventures, is that the Crusoe Crew is for 1 to 4 players, and each player has their own book, embodying a particular character with their own special powers. So players are going to want to work together with each other, albeit separately in their own books, to progress on islands full of adventure and different brain twisters all together as one. Overall, these look to be a fantastic introduction to these choose-your-own-adventure graphic novel books that have been coming out, and I highly recommend checking out the Crusoe Crew to kind of get into the experience. All right, well, that's all for this installment, but join me again in just a few days as we continue on to the next batch of games in the list of the top 60 games coming out for sale at Gen Con. Until then, I've been Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise. Take care.